Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Daily Dose, day number 23. Inshallah, tonight we are in the 23rd juz'ah in chapter 39, Surah Al-Zumar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse 9,
أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ سَاجِدًا وقائما يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربه قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب.
is the one who is devoutly obedient during periods of the night, prostrating and standing in prayer, fearing the hereafter and hoping for the mercy of his Lord, like the one who does not? Say, are those who know equal to those who do not know? Only they will remember who are people of understanding. So if we look at the beginning of this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that those who are devoutly obedient and they stand in the night prostrating and standing, fearing the hereafter and hoping for the mercy of his Lord. And then the second part, are those who know equal to those who do not know? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making a comparison between two types of people. The first type of people are those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly or consistently. The second part of people are those who only remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during times of hardship, during times of need. And so these two people have two qualities. The first one is the first person who has the two qualities is, first of all, he understands, he knows and he understands Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has understanding, he has knowledge. And because of that, he stands in prayer during the night. He fears the hereafter and he has mercy of his Lord. While the second person, he doesn't do that. He doesn't have knowledge, and therefore he only calls on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he is in need. So going back to the hope and mercy, fearing the hereafter and hoping for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the scholars say that hope and mercy, that your hope for paradise yet fearing the hereafter should be balanced like two wings on a bird. That without one, the bird can't fly, and with one bigger than the other, the bird will just go in circles. It can't fly straight. So we have to have hope for the paradise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to have this fear of the punishment or of the hellfire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with both of those, inshallah, we'll be balanced in our understanding, and we can fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the right way. And then the end of the verse, it says, and only they will remember who are people of understanding. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that only those who have the understanding, only those who have knowledge, will remember that they have to call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. And this is why at the beginning of the verse he says that they are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the night, prostrating and standing.
And there's a very beautiful hadith found in Al-Bukhari wherein Aisha radiallahu anha says, the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, says that every single time the last nights of Ramadan came, the Prophet, peace be upon him, would, he would tighten his waistcloth. Meaning, if you had any harsh or hard task in front of you, what would you do? You would roll up your sleeves, you would tighten your belt, and this is exactly what this refers to. The Prophet ﷺ would tighten his waist belt or waistcloth, or that's their belt back then. He would tighten it, meaning that there was a feat in front of him. There's going to be a struggle in front of him, and he's getting ready. He's preparing himself for that. So he would do that. He would tighten his waistcloth, and he would wake up his family, and he would pray longer throughout the nights. So this was one of the sunnahs of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that in these last final 10 nights, he would wake up at night and he would pray, and he would wake up his family, and he would prepare for this hard struggle in front of him, and he would sacrifice these days for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can see this as one of the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees as a knowledgeable person. The true knowledgeable person is the person who does this. These are one of the characteristics of them, that they stand up at night praying. And this brings us to the point of i'tikaf. And ya'takif al-abd, it literally means that a slave is in full seclusion. I'tikaf literally means seclusion. So you seclude yourself from everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for you outside the masjid. So you seclude yourself from all of the livelihood or all of your business or your work, even from your family. You stay away from your wife or from your spouse or from your husband during these nights. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that clearly in the Quran. So you basically stay away from everything, and think of it as an extended salah. It's not really a salah, but what do you do in salah? You concentrate strictly on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing else. And that's what you're doing in the masjid during i'tikaf. You seclude yourself from all these things. You concentrate on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. You sit there in your corner in the masjid or in your spot in the masjid, your place in the masjid, and what do? You think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do tasbih, you read Quran, you pray, you make dua, so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that the Prophet Muhammad used to do on the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and these are some of the things that we should be doing. As we all know, on the last third of Ramadan, we talked about this hadith before, that the last third of Ramadan is designated to عِتْقٌ مِّنَ النَّارِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to save people from the punishment of hellfire, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be one of those people that He will save on these final 10 nights, even when we observe Laylatul Qadr.
And just to stress this point of i'tikaf, the Prophet ﷺ, even in his last year of his life, he actually did i'tikaf in the last 20 days of Ramadan. And then, subhanAllah, in the last 10 days, we all know about Laylatul Qadr. But we want to stress one thing here, that, subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ didn't designate just one night of Laylatul Qadr. So a lot of people will say it is the 27th night. But this is a wrong understanding. It was, we know, one of the odd nights of the last 10 days of Ramadan. So we should be spending each of the last 10 days of Ramadan within the masjid, or going to qiyam.
And that, subhanAllah, is one of the wisdoms behind Ramadan, that we don't just, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept it hidden, so we don't just observe it on a specific night. We stay true to our belief within Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we worship Him throughout these last 10 nights.
And subhanAllah, even the Laylatul Qadr, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that it is worth 1,000 months, 83.3 years. So if you observe that night, one of those 10 days, if you observe that night, it's as if you prayed more than your whole entire life. So subhanAllah, take advantage of Laylatul Qadr, come to the masjid the last 10 days, and try and receive the reward of these 1,000 months, inshallah. Remember, to help you get through Ramadan each and every day, check out the Math Arizona page to get your
Daily Dose.